Hello, this is Greg Waugh, South Atlantic Council staff, and this is a presentation on our amendment that is a modification to charter vessel and headboat reporting requirements. It's Amendment 39 to the Snapper Grouper Fishery Management Plan, Amendment 9 to the Dolphin Wahoo Fishery Management Plan, and Amendment 27 to the Coastal Migratory Pelagics Mackerel and Cobia Plan. So in terms of background, what exactly are we proposing? The South Atlantic Fishery Management Council is considering mandatory electronic reporting for charter vessels and changes to existing reporting requirements for headboats. Who has to do this? Federally permitted charter vessels and headboats in the Snapper Grouper, Dolphin Wahoo, and Coastal Migratory Pelagics fisheries along the entire Atlantic coast. A federal permit is required for higher vessels, charter, and headboats operating more than 3 miles offshore, which is federal waters. So why? Well, electronic reporting will improve the accuracy and timeliness of data collection. Fisheries managers can better monitor landings and discards and more accurately assess impacts of regulations on fishermen. And that's something fishermen have asked for, and it's obviously important to them. The Council is proposing to implement the same reporting requirements for federally permitted charter vessels or six-pack vessels that currently exist for headboats. And we're modifying the timing of headboat reporting requirements. So this will bring charter boats up to what we're doing now for headboats. So how many vessels will be impacted and what's the cost? Currently there are 76 headboats in the South Atlantic with federal for hire permits, and they are reporting now. There are currently 1,984 charter vessels, and if this amendment moves forward and gets implemented, then they would need to begin reporting. In terms of costs, you'll be able to input this data via computer. So if you have access to a computer, you own one, or for instance in a library, it will cost you the time to input the data. The Council is working on a pilot project in cooperation with charter vessels and a couple of headboats to develop very user-friendly software to make it easy and quick to enter this data. And some of you may be contacted by us in the next couple of months to participate in this project. And this will help develop some of the software for this reporting requirement. So in terms of actions, there are 3 actions in the amendment. Action 1 applies to operators of charter vessels. The Council's preferred, well, right now, if you are selected, the National Marine Fisheries Service already has the authority to require reporting. None have been selected so far. Thus far, they have got headboats reporting. So the Council's preferred alternative is number 2, is that weekly or at intervals shorter than a week, if notified by the Science and Research Director, electronic reports would be due by Tuesday following each week that ends on a Sunday. Our Snapper Grouper AP has reviewed this and they support this. And this is the same deadline as commercial dealers have to meet. In terms of further clarifying, the Council's preferred subalternative 2A is that fishermen will report all fish harvested and discarded on all trips regardless of where harvested. And I'll get into that in a little more detail, but that's the same current requirement for headboats right now. The Council also discussed daily, but we're not going to that at this time. And you can see the summary or the amendment for the complete wording of these actions and alternatives. So what and where to report? Again, federally permitted charter vessels would be required to report all fish harvested, discarded, regardless of where harvested, and that includes federal and state waters. The Council's intent is to have charter vessels and fisheries managed by the Council meet the minimum data elements currently collected for federal headboats and for charter vessels and headboats in South Carolina. South Carolina has a long-standing logbook program in place, and so we want to incorporate those data elements, and I'll hit those details in a few minutes. A delinquent report automatically results in a prohibition on harvesting or possessing the applicable species by the permit holder, regardless of any additional notification. So if you don't report weekly, then you are not authorized to go out fishing until you make that report. So we intend to have these measures be enforced. These data are very critical to monitoring our fisheries. In terms of catastrophic conditions, a hurricane or some other event, we have given authority to the National Marine Fisheries Service Regional Administrator so that they can authorize the use of paper forms. And if you don't fish during a week, we need you to submit a no fishing report. This allows us to make sure everybody is complying. That same deadline applies. And if you're going to be not fishing for an extended period of time, you can file that ahead of time. And it's the Council's intent to extend the reporting requirements through the Mid-Atlantic and New England Council areas for all vessels with federal for hire permits for snapper grouper, dolphin and wahoo, and the coastal migratory pelagics. It's also the Council's intent not to have duplicate reporting. We're very concerned about that, and we're doing everything we can to make sure an individual vessel only submits one report. For example, if it went to the Atlantic Coast Cooperative Statistics Program, or ACCSP, then all the agencies would be able to pull the data from there. So we recognize that duplicate reporting would be an issue, and we're working to eliminate that. So I said we're going to have to meet the Headboat and South Carolina data elements. So here are the Headboat data elements. You can see it's not an extensive list, but those are the items that are necessary in order to meet the Headboat reporting requirements. And you have these in your summary document. I'm not going to go through each one here. South Carolina also has some of these are very similar, and we will obviously come up with a very combined one at the end, but we want your input on these data elements. And there are some additional ones we're considering is to make sure we have a vessel identification number to help in tracking the reporting requirements. And we want to be sure that we can separate charter vessels from headboats. And the state of South Carolina has some data elements that maybe allow us to do that. Additional data that could be collected on a sample or voluntary basis, and this is totally separate from the required data elements. These are things that could be done that would help tremendously to reduce our level of uncertainty in our stock assessments. So one is release and discards, measuring those fish and recording the specific depth they're released. That's something we're going to do on this pilot project that I mentioned earlier with some fishermen. Record the retained catch at specific location. And this gets depth recorded as well. And again, it's important to understand where fish, particularly they're being released at depth, because then the discard mortality rate could be adjusted in the stock assessment. And collecting economic data similar to what is being collected from commercial fishermen now, and social data. And those would allow us to better understand these impacts and document impacts on fishermen, as well as demonstrating the importance and value of the charter and headboat fisheries. So that's it for Action 1. Action 2 applies to headboats, and this would change the reporting deadlines. Right now, as shown under Alternative 1, no action, reports are due the Sunday following a reporting week that ends on the previous Sunday. The preferred alternative is to have those reports due by Tuesday following each week that ends on a Sunday. So this reduces the time from 7 to 2 days. We feel that would improve the accuracy of the data. Our snapper grouper AP supports this, and this is the same deadline as we have for commercial dealers. And the council also looked at daily, but is not proposing to change that. So the only change for headboats is you have to get your data in by Tuesday of the following week. Action 3 applies to charter vessels, and this gets into reporting the catch location. Right now, charter vessels in the for hire survey report area fished in terms of inshore, state, or federal waters. What we want them to do is report the same way the headboats do, where they would report their location electronically, either by giving the latitude and longitude in degrees and minutes, or by clicking on a headboat chart. So there'll be a chart online that you can click in a grid to show where you fished. And again, this is the same degree of resolution that's currently in place for the headboat, so it doesn't give away your specific fishing spot. So those are the three actions. Looking at some of the benefits and costs. Benefits, better catch and effort data. That will help reduce the uncertainty in stock assessments. Better quota monitoring, and it would avoid potential paybacks for shorter seasons if the recreational sector goes over their annual catch limit. And this comes closer to matching what the commercial fishermen are reporting. Right now, the commercial fishermen have to fill out 3 logbooks: a catch logbook, a discard logbook, and an economic logbook. 100% of them do the catch logbook, and approximately 20% are selected for the discard, and another 20% for the economic logbook. Also, this responds to all the public input we received during our visioning process, and it's a part of the visioning blueprint. So the science goal in the vision blueprint is that management decisions are based upon robust, defensible science. The objective 1, promote collection of quality data. Strategy 1.2 encourages consistency in data collection programs. Support the priority actions, support efforts to create a uniform, efficient reporting mechanism for trip tickets and logbooks, and that's what we're doing here, getting the same system in place for the entire for hire sector. And there's a little more detail on this in the public hearing document and the summary. Objective 2 is to encourage development of mechanisms to effectively engage and collaborate with stakeholders. So we want to work with you all to collect this data. And objective 4 is to support improved and expanded monitoring and reporting programs for the snapper grouper fishery. Strategy 4.2, support further development of reporting mechanisms, priority action, use of electronic reporting mechanism for all sectors in the fishery. And that's exactly what we're doing here. In terms of cost, it's your time to record the data, and we think that's a valuable investment of your time. If you have a computer or access to a computer, it will cost you the time to input your data. And if you prefer and you have a laptop, a tablet or a laptop, then you can input that data sooner and more conveniently. So in terms of timing, the council approved this for public hearings at their December meeting. On January 20th, we will have an informal question and answer webinar. And then we have a series of public hearings from North Carolina through Florida, January 25th through February 3rd. On February 8th, we'll have a webinar public hearing to make sure that we cover our fishermen in the Mid-Atlantic and New England. That's open to anybody who wants to register for that. And then written comments are due by 5 p.m. on February 10th. Now, the council will review all the minutes from the hearings, any letters we receive from you all. Council members get copies of those. They'll review all that and pick and see if they need to modify their preferred alternatives. They'll approve all actions. There will be an opportunity for public comment Wednesday, March 9th, beginning at 5:30. And then we will finalize the document, and it will come back to the council for their June 13 through 17 meeting in Cocoa Beach, Florida. They will review the final document and approve it. Again, there's another opportunity for public comment on Wednesday, June 15th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. And then by June 30th, our goal is to send it for review and implementation by the Secretary of Commerce. Our goal is to have this implemented January 1, 2017. We will be flexible with that. If the whole system isn't ready, it may take a little bit longer. We want to make sure the system's up and running correctly before it becomes mandatory. And we've got the sites for our public hearings, the dates. All of them begin at 4 p.m. except Morehead City, that begins at 5 p.m. And in terms of commenting, written comments, we accept them through the mail to the council address. The public hearing document has the address. Fax, you can email them to mike.collins@safmc.net. We've got several documents out for public hearing, so make sure in the subject line you put for hire a.m. for amendment. And again, they have to be received by 5 p.m. on February 10th, 2016. And if you have questions, you can email John Carmichael. His email address is there. He will be doing most of these public hearings. And when we do the question and answer session, obviously you will have the opportunity to ask for any questions you might have. So thank you, and go to our website for additional information about this amendment. We will have the complete amendment document there. Obviously this presentation will be there, and the public hearing summary will be there also. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this, and we look forward to seeing you at the public hearings. Thanks.